Short answer, that ancient Peruvians could have colonized the Pacific from South America using the Humboldt Current. Thus, the theory behind the Kon-Tiki is that the Polynesians are of Ameri-Indian origin. The base reason for this theory is that the sweet potato, which is of South American origin, has been found across the Polynesian Triangle from Hawaii in the north to New Zealand in the southwest, all the way to Easter Island in the east. The sweet potato would have somehow had to have reached these islands, and thus it was theorized that the early Polynesians had come from South America, bringing the sweet potato with them. Another supporting factor of this theory of settlement from South America was that the currents and winds of the Polynesian Triangle are generally westward, going easterlies, or trade winds, meaning you can go from South America out into the Pacific with the winds and currents at your back rather than against you. This led to the drift theory of the Pacific having been settled partly or fully by rafts drifting with the currents out to the island groups. Archaeological evidence from Peru had shown that the Incas and their forebears had had rafts that they used to go out and fish in the rich cool waters of the Humboldt Current. It was not too long a stretch to imagine these rafts going further along with the currents into the southern equatorial current and out into the Pacific, reaching the Polynesian islands. Both the northern and southern Pacific Gyre rotate so as to having their westward going current at the equator, as is the case for all the subtropical oceanic gyres. Not all Polynesian islands are accessible from each other by winds and currents alone. Some navigation is needed, but drift theory could account for early settlement. The driving force behind the Kon-Tiki expedition was Norwegian scholar and adventurer Thor Heyerdahl, who wanted to prove the drift theory by practical example. The goal was to drift a pre-Columbian raft from Peru to French Polynesia. Both the raft and the expedition was named Kon-Tiki after a name for the Inca sun god, who legend has it had sailed off west into the Pacific from Peru. Thor Heyerdahl succeeded in getting private sponsorship as well as equipment from the US Navy for his expedition. The Peruvian government supported him with dock facilities for building the Kon-Tiki raft. The Kon-Tiki was built from sketches from Spanish conquistadors of Incan rafts and was built using only materials that had been available in pre-Columbian Peru. The raft was made from 9 logs of balsa wood 14 meters long with a diameter of 60 centimeters bound together with hemp rope. For lateral support, balsa logs of 5.5 meters length were fastened across the main logs. Kon-Tiki thus was 14 meters long and 5.5 meters wide. Pine centerboards were wedged between the balsa logs to give directional stability. It had both a mainmast and a mizzenmast made from mangrove wood. The mainmast was an 8.8 meter tall A-frame with a 4.6 meters by 5.5 meters mainsail. There are also photographs showing a topsail and a mizzensail. A 5.8 meter steering oar was at the stern. The deck was made of bamboo, and behind the main mast was the cabin, also of bamboo and roofed with banana leaves. To stay true to the available pre-Columbian materials, no metal was used in the Kon-Tiki's construction. They did, however, have modern rations and equipment and a radio. This was the raft upon which the 6-man crew would spend more than 100 days en route from Peru to the Tuamotu Islands in French Polynesia. Kon-Tiki set out from Callao, Peru, on the 28th of April 1947. For safety reasons, the Peruvian Navy dragged the Kon-Tiki 80 kilometers offshore. Then they were carried west by the Humboldt Current. They would remain at sea with no land in sight for 97 days and then made sighting of Angatao Island, but were unable to make landfall. 97 days were, however, the minimum time that Heyerdahl had calculated for reaching the Tuamotus, so they had made excellent time. The voyage ended on the 101st day, 7th of August, when the Kon-Tiki struck a reef on an island near Raroai Atoll and beached there. The crew was safe, but had to wait on the islet until villagers from the nearby atoll rescued them in canoe. The Kon-Tiki and crew had succeeded in traveling 3,770 nautical miles at an average speed of 1.5 knots, showing that it is possible to raft across the Pacific using the ocean currents of the southern Pacific Oceanic Gyre. It was possible to salvage the Kon-Tiki, and it was towed to Tahiti by the French schooner Tamara that also brought Heyerdahl and his crew. Although Heyerdahl succeeded in proving that Polynesia could be reached by drift from South America, most evidence by far, be it linguistic, cultural, or genetic, point to the Polynesian being the easternmost branch of the Austronesian expansion. This makes the Polynesians Asian in origin rather than American, and more closely related to the Malay in Southeast Asia. Another problem of the drift theory is the lack of evidence for it among the Polynesians themselves, with their maritime technology and culture being significantly more advanced and quite capable of traversing the Pacific against the currents. This was proven by the voyaging canoe Hokulea in 1976 when it traveled from Hawaii to Tahiti. Thereby, the ocean-going capabilities of the Polynesian canoes were proven. The canoe journey also had the advantage of using technology known to the Polynesians. So where does this leave the Kon-Tiki expedition? We still have the issue of the sweet potato being found all over Polynesia, but not closer to Asia. Somehow it must have come there. Although the Polynesians are of Asian origin, this does not mean that they could not have contact with South America, either by arriving there themselves in their canoes or by Ameri-Indians actually arriving in Polynesia by raft and being absorbed into the Polynesian population, with the sweet potato being their lasting legacy. The Kon-Tiki expedition spawned many subsequent raft expeditions, including one arriving on Easter Island, showing that the raft journey can be replicated and wind and current patterns alone can be used to travel the ocean. This is Kon-Tiki's lasting legacy. Today the Kon-Tiki can be seen in the Kon-Tiki Museum on the Bygdøy Peninsula in Oslo, Norway.